Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video we're going to take a look at how to make a shipping container with Revit. There's about 100 ways you can do this in Revit. I'm going to show you one of them right here, and if you're interested in some other ways that are more just graphic based, I'm happy to show that for you as well. But essentially here we're going to be making a new wall type. So under Architecture tab we're going to click on Wall. It's going to give you a basic generic wall. I'm going to go and click on Edit Type, and we would duplicate that generic wall and then just rename it to shipping container. From there you go to Structure, click on Edit, and here is where you can change the generic wall to a structure. Under Material, click on the three dots, change it to a steel, and then for the thickness you can make that a 1/2 inch. Then you can add a thermal layer by clicking Insert, and then you can go to Material, change that to Rigid Insulation. So you would search for that, and you might find it down here in your library, and you would add that to your project. And we can make that 4 inches thick. And then inside we're going to make a substrate by clicking Insert, and then we're going to change that to a metal stud layer, make that 3.5 inches thick. And then for the finished gypsum we can go 1/2 inch. Now that 3.5 inches thick would be great if we're running some plumbing in that wall. However, if you want to turn those metal studs on their edge, you can make them 1.5 inches thick, and then they'd act more like furring strips, and that would be good for like if you were running electrical behind those walls. That would save you a little bit of room on the inside. So I'm going to make it more like a furring strip. I'm planning on having no plumbing on the exterior side of my wall. And if you had some larger pipes, you might have to go to 5.5 inches thick. Alright, so now that we have our layers set up, I'm going to say OK. And the order of structure and thermal being inside core boundary, Revit needs that to happen, otherwise it will not let you do this. We're just going to say OK, and then we're going to say OK. Now we have our shipping container wall. Since we have a definite inside and a definite outside, we need to make sure we're drawing clockwise, otherwise our walls will become inside out. I'm going to go to Finish Face Exterior, and I'm going to draw my walls up to a height of level 2. And when I go and click around, shipping containers are either 10 foot, 20 foot, or 40 foot long. So I'm going to make this one a 40 foot shipping container. I'm going to go down and make this 8 foot wide. I'm going to come over 40 feet and then up 8 feet. If I go to 3D, I can see that I have my basic form of this shipping container. Then I'm going to go to a shaded view, and I'll change my detailing to fine. In this shaded view, let's see, I can see that my height is up to level 2, which is at 10 feet. Shipping containers are 8'6", so I'm going to go over to my elevations, and I'm going to change level 2's height to 8'6". And now my walls, since they were assigned to level 2, have adjusted with the elevation. Under my floor plan level 2, we can rename this to roof, so that's a right click. And I say yes, that way it renames my elevations as well. In this roof view, I can go and create a roof component. So roof by footprint, and the roof type, I can make the exact same layers that I had for my shipping container walls. So I'm going to show that for you right now. I'm going to say duplicate. I'm going to call it shipping container roof. The structure itself, I click on Edit. For function, structure, it's going to be metal. And then the thickness of that, I made it a 1/2 inch. You can double check what specs you want for that. Then I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to move it down, and inside of that we're going to do our thermal insulation. So there we go. And that's going to be 4 inches thick. And then I'm going to insert one more, move it down beyond the core boundary. This is going to be our substrate of metal studs. And say OK. And if we use it as furring strips, it can be 1.5 inches thick. And then attached to that all the way down is going to be our gypsum, and that'll be our finish. And that's drywall, so that will look like just a regular painted wall. So gypsum, and we say OK. That's 1/2 inch. Say OK. Alright, now that we have this, we can say OK, and we can go and create our wall. But notice all these triangles that are popped up. I don't want, so I'm going to hit escape. I don't want a defined slope to be on, so I'm going to do that one more time. And we check it, and then in 3D we have our roof, and then we're going to do the same thing with the floor. The floor we build up pretty much the same way, except we're not going to do a gypsum finish. So on level 1 we're going to go to floor, and we're going to edit type, we're going to duplicate, and we're going to call this container floor or shipping container floor. For structure, we're going to edit, keep that material to steel, there we go, say OK, and then the thickness 1/2 inch, and then we insert another one down, thermal, thickness is 4. Insert another one down. Substrate. Now here, you can do some furring strips. We could do a corrugated deck, some concrete. There's a couple things we can do here now that we have it insulated. What I'm going to do is furring strips, corrugated metal, and like a concrete finished floor. I think that would look kind of cool. However, you could do furring strips and like plywood and then a wood floor. You could go tile. It's kind of up to you. But I'm going to do substrate and do metal stud. And I did say that there was actual metal furring. That would also work. It's the same thing. And then we're going to call it 1.5 inches thick. And then I'm going to insert. Now let's see. My exterior. I think I have some of these flipped because since it's a floor, it's going to go. This is the bottom of our floor. This is the top of our floor. So I'm actually going to bring these all the way down. So my steel all the way down. My thermal, I want to move down as well. So actually these guys I'm going to move all the way up. All the way up. So my steel. Inside the core boundary I have the steel. Then I have thermal on top of that. So that protects us from the cold ground because this won't be buried underground. And then the structure above that is going to be the furring. And then above that we're going to stack on some material on top of that furring. So in this case I'm going to do a another substructure of steel decking. Metal deck, they call it. And that thickness, because of its ribs, it's 3.5 sometimes. It could be even more. It could be like 4, could be less, could be 2. That's about how high that profile will go. And then I'm going to insert one more above that. I'm going to call this concrete, and that'll be my finish. And the material is going to be concrete poured on that. And I'm going to do like a polished concrete topping. That's what I'm picturing. And it's going to go above that 3-inch deck about 2 inches. And then I'm going to say OK. And let's see, here we have an error. So it says row 3 layer function properties cannot ascend from core boundary. So this one, this metal furring, they want in the core boundary. So I'm going to send it down. And then we're going to say OK. And we're going to say OK. And then now here, click on the rectangle. And we're going to draw that across our whole base. and check that off. Alright, cool. So now I'm going to go over to my 3D, and we have our shipping container kind of capped off here on every side, but we need to add these ribs to it, right, to make it look correct. If I go over to my plan view, and if I go and draw view section, we can do a quick wall section through here and take a look at what that looks like. If we go to our fine detail, we can start to see how our insulation has been added to the exterior wall here, and we can see how our roof comes in, and there's some things you can do to play with how everything overlaps. And if you want to do that in like a detail here to show that you've done everything correctly, what you can do is up in the view tab, they have a cut profile command, and this we can do in a couple ways. This can make it so we don't have to make our 3D show the same profile. We can do that here in the section view and just keep the 3D as it is. So I can go up to my view tab, and I can do cut profile, and I can pick on any of these elements here. So I could pick on like, let's say this wall here. If I want this thing to go all the way up, so that way it looks like the metal is welded together from the roof, I can do that by clicking up and over here, and by checking that off. And then here I can go to cut profile, so escape, view, cut profile. I can draw that in, and this arrow, I flip it, check it, and then I have to do the same with a couple more of these elements. So cut profile, this one, I'm going to draw a line through it, hit escape, flip the arrow, check it, and then I have to do the same thing down here. So I keep wanting to select it, but you have to click cut profile first, then pick the edge that you want to modify, and then hit escape and flip that arrow by clicking on it and check it. The arrow points to the direction that the profile is getting cut in. So now I have my metal roof welded to my metal walls, and that looks pretty good. The drywall on the inside is cool like this. That's fine. I would run it the same way. That way these walls kind of support the roof like that. And then same thing on the floor. We want to modify this floor, so I'm going to do more cut profile. So I'm going to do cut profile. I'm going to click on the wall first, and I'm going to draw that thing straight down. Check that. Now that looks like it's all the way down. And then the floor, we have to do cut profile on the floor, and so this is going to bump right underneath these walls. So just like this. Escape, flip the arrow, check it. It's kind of a process, but you'll get really good at it by the end. Cut profile, click on that. Flip it, check it. View, cut profile. This next one. And cut profile. I bet you if I drew it going up, my arrows would go the other way. Alright, so now that I have this, looks like this detail is pretty good right now. And so the only other thing that we could change is the profile of the metal, the corrugation. Okay, now that we're ready to do our shipping container ribs, if we take a look, everything's flat. We want to add in some ribs and make sure that this thing looks actually like a shipping container. We can go to level 1. I have my fine detail on in level 1, and I'm going to go up to my massing and site tab. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to my architecture and go to reference plane. With reference plane, I'm going to come in and I'm going to drag up and I'm going to then hit escape a couple times, click on that reference plane, click the little blue circle, drag that down and through, and we're going to name that reference plane West Rib. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to go click off, Architecture tab, Reference Plane, zoom in, and I make mine just right on the inside edge of that wall. Come down, click on it, we're going to do East Rib, and then from this we can go through to an East Elevation View, and we can come up to Component under Architecture and say Model in Place, and we're going to go to a generic model, say OK, and OK. And then we are going to actually set our reference plane to be the East Rib, say OK, and we're going to do a sweep, and we're going to then make sure that our reference plane is still East Rib, OK. And then we need to sketch a path. So we need to, not really sure why this place lines command came on, but under modify sweep, we're going to go to sketch path, and we're going to do pick lines. We're going to pick the boundary of our shipping container, and then I'm going to use the corner tool here to join those together. Notice the first line I picked on creates this perpendicular plane that we're going to draw our profile on for the sweep. We're going to check that off. Now we're ready to make our profile. I'm going to go to 3D, and here you can kind of see that that target, those crosshairs, become the plane that we draw our profile on. So I'm going to click on front, so then that way we can zoom into that plane straight on. And with this, we could do it a subtractive or an additive way. If we did subtractive, we would have had to make our walls like a generic component as well. So we're going to add the ridges on to our structure. So I'm going to select profile, I'm going to do by sketch, edit profile, pick the line tool, I'm going to come up 1 inch, and then I'm going to come over, ½ inch looks good, and then I'm going to come down to wherever I think it should go. Let's go like that. Hit escape a couple times, and then now I'm going to click on these both by doing a box, top right to bottom left, and then I'm going to do a mirror line, pick that over, hit escape twice, delete that center line, and then we're going to close up this profile from endpoint to endpoint by snapping, hit escape a couple times, and there we go. That's like one of the ridges right there. And then I can check that off, and I can check that off again, and then if we go and orbit around, we'll see that we've made this band around our entire structure. And then from here, I'm going to do an array command. So I'm going to go over to my north elevation, and if I look right here, I've got my profile. I can go up to finish the model, or I could do an array. It kind of depends how we want to associate this. If I finish it and then array it, I'm arraying a bunch of individual items. If I keep it all together, it becomes one model, and you just might find the way you customize it, you might prefer one way over another. So I'm going to keep it all together, so I'm not going to finish it yet. I'm going to do the array command, and I can tell it how many I want, and then if I want it to be a linear array, so a path, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to tell it where the second one's going to go. So if the first one's here, the second one's going to be there, and if I want there to be a little bit of a gap in between, because usually these shipping containers have a little bit of a gap, so I'm going to undo that, undo that. Alright, so we're going to do an array command of this item, and we're going to say the second one, it's going to be here, but then maybe plus a couple inches, and then I'm going to go and say that there's going to be let's see. This is a little bit of guess and check, but let's say that there's 30. And I need there to be more, so now I know there needs to be way more. So I'm going to say that this is going to be 80. And I could go to the last one. I'm going to say 80, 78. You can also tell it where the last one is. So I can say the last one's going to be here, and then there's going to be 78 in between. So now that I know like 78 fit on here with this little gap, I could say the last one's going to be here. We're going to have 78, and I'll split that gap between all of these. So I'm going to actually hit escape on this. I'm going to undo that array. With this one now selected, I can do an array again, and I can say it's going to be the last one. So from first, and I'm going to do the midpoint, to last, there's going to be 78. And it's got them all in there. Say OK. And now that I have that, I can finish the model. And we can go to 3D. And we can see that we've made this shipping container with our grooves. You can do the same thing for the short faces on there. And you can add in your doors. Now to add doors and windows, right now these ribs will not cut in the same way when we go to throw in like a door or a window. So I'm going to go over to level 1. And in level 1, I'm going to throw in a door just to illustrate how we can do this. So I'm going to throw a door in right here. But then in 3D, I can see that I still have this in the way. So if we click on that and we say edit in place, it's going to think for a bit. Make a void form here. Set our work plan. Pick a plane. Let's pick the door. Draw a cutout for this door. And then we'll check that off. And drag it in. Looks like I need to drag that over. Why this guy didn't delete, I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. Alright, so we did a void form, and we set our work plane on the door, and then we were able to drag that through for the door. Let's go back to level 1. Alright, cool. Now this in level 1, I'm not sure why. Oh, that's from maybe the top or bottom. We're seeing that. So you might have to do like a clipping mask to hide that profile in a plan view. And in order to do that, I'm going to hit finish model real fast. In order to do that, you just go up to the annotate tab. So let's just double check what this looks like in 3D. Okay, that's looking good. And then I'm going to go to my plan view. And in the annotate tab, we're just going to put in a masking region. And with masking region, we're going to change this to invisible lines. Those are different than hidden lines. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle over the spot we need to mask. So just right over here is good. We're going to check that off. And then now we have that hidden. And that's basically it. Let's see my section. Let's see how that looks. So now we have like these rib patterns on our metal. And if you want to, you can do a masking region on those seams to make that look like it's all tied into the metal. Okay, I need to wrap up this video, so let's take a look at what this looks like in 3D. So in 3D, we can see that we have our door punched through. That's pretty easy to add doors and windows this way because The walls are actually walls, not models. And then from here, our family file copies over nicely with the array command, and then we were able to use the void command to punch out those openings, that way our doors and windows shine through. This is a great way to add those vertical detailing elements. If you were looking for horizontal, I have a video on Revit profiles where you can go and make, like, let's say a log cabin. That's what I do in that video. Don't forget to save and subscribe. I have a whole list of videos that I plan on putting out relatively soon, and I'm hoping to do that on a weekly basis. Alright, I'll see you all later.